Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew, what a very sweet name. Something tells me we're going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say, and my first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after we've only known each other such a comparatively short time. Please sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
With pleasure.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
Yes, of course.
Well, that is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps this is a favorable opportunity for me mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You've never heard of Papa, I suppose?
I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is entirely unknown, and that's quite as it should be. The home to me seems to be the proper sphere for a man, and certainly once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Mama, whose views on education are entirely unknown, she's remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. You don't mind me looking at you through my glasses, do you?
No, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You're here on a short visit, I suppose?
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some other female relative of advanced years resides here also?
Oh, no. I have no mother, nor in fact any relations at all.
Indeed.
Yes, my guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh, it is strange to me he never mentioned he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I am not sure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. I am very fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you. But I'm bound to state that now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I can't help expressing I wish you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly.
Oh, please do. I always say when someone has something inconvenient to say, they should always speak quite candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish you were fully 42 and more than usual plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. And even men with the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the influences of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less ancient history has given us painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, history indeed would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Well, it isn't Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Oh, he never mentioned to me he had a brother.
I'm sorry to say that they have not been on good terms for quite some time.
That accounts for it. Now that I think of it, I've never heard of any man mention a brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. In fact, you are quite sure it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian?
I'm quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his...
I beg your pardon?
Yes. Well, Gwendolyn, I'm not going to keep it a secret from you. I mean, our little county newspaper is sure to chronicle a fact sometime next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
I think you are under some misconception. He engaged to me, and the announcement will appear in the Morning Post by Saturday at the latest.
It seems to me that you're the one under a misconception, Gwendolyn. I mean, Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday at 5:30. To verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One must always have something sensational to read on the train. I'm sorry, Cecily, but I'm afraid I have the prior claim.
It brings me more pain than I could ever admit, dearest Gwendolyn, if it has caused you any mental or physical anguish, but since Ernest proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind.
been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglements my dear boy got himself into, I would never reproach him about it once we were married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, of an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more of a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? Now is not the time to wear the shallow masks of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
Well, I'm glad to say that I've never seen a spade. It's obvious our social spheres have been widely different. Are there any interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Yes, a great many. In fact, from the top of a nearby hill, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I shall like that. I hate crowds.
This must be why you live in town.
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
I'm so glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I didn't know there were any flowers in the country.
Flowers are as common here as people are in London.
Personally, I don't know how anybody could reside in the country, anybody who anybody does. The country always bores me to death.
Oh, this is what the newspaper is calling agricultural depression, is it not? I mean, the aristocracies are suffering from it at this present moment, or so I've heard. Can I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cornbread or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cornbread is rarely seen in the finest of homes these days. You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I most distinctly asked for bread and butter, you have given me cornbread. I am known for my gentleness of my disposition and my extraordinary sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To protect my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the conniving ways of women like you, I would go to any length.
Ever since I met you, I distrusted you. You are false and deceitful. I have never been deceived in such matters, and my first impressions of people are always right.
It seems to me, Mrs. Fairfax, that I am imposing on your valuable time. No doubt you have calls of a similar nature in the neighborhood.